I'm not a snooper. Never have been. But that afternoon, Rachel had asked me to grab her wallet while she was upstairs changing after work. And like any good husband, I obliged. Reached in, pulled out the wallet, and that's when it fell out. A thin, faded receipt. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second glance. But the address wasn't one I recognized. A hotel. A Ramada Inn, about 30 minutes across town. And the date? A Thursday from 2 weeks ago. Right around the time Rachel said she had to work late. I remember standing there in the kitchen, holding that little slip of thermal paper like it was a loaded gun. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't pound. It was worse than that. I felt nothing. Not because I didn't care, but because some part of me had already known. Like my gut had signed the paperwork long before my brain caught up. Rachel and I had been married for 11 years. 2 kids. A house with a mortgage and a cracked foundation, both literal and metaphorical. We were comfortable. We were boring. We were safe. And maybe that was the problem. She used to laugh more. We both did. We used to sit in bed eating cereal at midnight, arguing about which 80s band was the most overrated. She always said Bon Jovi. I pretended to be outraged just to hear her giggle. But that version of us faded somewhere along the way, like old wallpaper peeling off a damp wall. Slowly, quietly, without either of us noticing until it was almost gone. Still, I never thought she'd cheat. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat across from her on the couch. She was scrolling through Zillow like she always did, looking at houses we'd never buy. Her hair was pulled back, and she was wearing that old hoodie of mine she always borrowed. She looked ordinary, comfortable, and I hated that I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. I didn't bring it up. Not yet. I needed more than a receipt. So I started watching. That's the thing about marriage. You spend so long learning how not to notice the little stuff, the sighs, the glances, the phone turned face down, that once you start noticing, it's like floodgates open. She got new perfume. Just felt like changing it up, she said. She never changed anything without a coupon and a 6-month debate. She started locking her phone. Said it was because our daughter kept playing games on it and racking up charges. Fair enough, except she also started taking it with her to the bathroom. The final straw came a week later. It was a Saturday. I'd taken the kids to the park so she could rest, her words. When we got home earlier than expected, I walked into the living room and caught her on the phone, whispering, her voice light and breathy. I couldn't make out much, just, "No, he's out with the kids." "Yes, I miss you too." She froze when she saw me, smiled too fast. Said it was her sister. Rachel doesn't have a sister. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because I knew if I accused her now, she'd deny it. Gaslight me. Maybe even cry. And I didn't want tears. I wanted the truth. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed her. The following Thursday, she said she was working late again. I kissed her goodbye like usual, then waited 10 minutes and grabbed my keys. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe she really was working. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe this was just one long misunderstanding, and we'd laugh about it one day, tell the story at dinner parties about the time I thought she was cheating, and it turned out she was planning a surprise anniversary trip. But as I followed her car down the interstate, watched her take the exit for the same Ramada and printed on that receipt, I stopped hoping. She pulled into the lot, parked, stayed in the car for a minute, probably texting him to say she was here. Then a man walked out of the lobby. Tall, athletic, maybe 5 years younger than her. He opened the door to her car, leaned in, and kissed her like they'd done it 1,000 times before. And just like that, I became the guy with a front row seat to the show he never wanted to see. I didn't do anything. I just sat there in my truck, parked across the lot, engine off, hands still on the wheel, and watched. They walked into the hotel like it was the most normal thing in the world. Like it was just another Thursday night, and this was just another place to be. Her hand brushed his lower back as they walked through the sliding doors. I never noticed her do that to me. I didn't follow them in. What was I going to do? Confront her in the lobby? Cause a scene? That's not who I am. I'm not the screaming in public type. I was raised to keep things bottled up and deal with them like a man. Sit with it. Swallow it. Let it chew you up inside. So I just stayed there for a while, staring at the doors like maybe she'd come back out. Maybe she'd have second thoughts. But after 15 minutes, it was clear she wasn't turning around. I don't even know how long I sat there. Maybe an hour. Maybe more. I kept thinking back through the years, like flipping through an old photo album in my head. Our wedding day. That road trip to Maine. The night she cried when we brought our first kid home. The dumb fights. The makeup pancakes. All of it. And now this. Eventually, I drove home. Didn't even turn the radio on. Just listened to the road and the hum of my tires and the sound of my breathing, which didn't feel quite right. She got home late, past midnight. Said work ran long. I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch the game. She kissed the top of my head and headed upstairs like everything was fine. I said nothing. That was probably the moment I realized something important, something painful. It wasn't just that she cheated. It's that she was so good at it. So normal. So calm. Like this wasn't the first time. And that hurt worse than anything. Over the next few days, I started paying attention to things I used to overlook. Her phone never left her side. She had a new laugh, a soft one, the kind you give when someone really gets under your skin in a good way. Not the kind of laugh she gave me anymore. She'd text and smile, then catch herself and tuck the phone away. When I asked what was funny, she'd say work stuff, or just Sarah from the office. I didn't even know if there was a Sarah from the office. It's a weird feeling living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed, raising kids together, and knowing there's a whole other part of her life you're not even allowed to touch. Like you're watching your own marriage from the outside, and no one told you you're not the main character anymore. I started sleeping on the couch. Told her my back was acting up again. She didn't push back much. She didn't ask if something was wrong. Didn't come down to talk. Didn't even seem surprised. And that said more than words ever could. I don't know, man. There's a certain kind of quiet that settles over a house when trust breaks. It's not yelling. It's not slamming doors. It's worse. It's cold dinners and fake smiles. It's sitting at the kitchen table with a woman who knows you know, and still won't tell you. I thought about confronting her 100 times. Thought about asking the question straight up. Are you seeing someone else? But I didn't. Not yet. Because deep down, I already knew the answer. And I wasn't ready to hear it from her lips. Not because I didn't want the truth, but because I didn't want to see what it looked like when she said it out loud and didn't even flinch. Funny how life doesn't stop just because your world quietly falls apart. I still got up at 6:30 every morning. Still packed the kids' lunches, even when Rachel said she'd handle it. I still went to work, smiled when I had to, and nodded at my boss like I gave a damn about the quarterly projections. Because when you've got 2 kids and a mortgage, you don't get to fall apart. You don't even get a lunch break to grieve. It was just a normal Thursday, except it wasn't. Because now, every time Rachel walked into the room, my whole body tensed, like my instincts knew something my heart didn't want to accept. The smell of that new perfume? It made my stomach twist. I used to love that scent. Now it smelled like lies. She didn't notice. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. That Thursday started like any other. She said she had a team dinner after work, one of those things where spouses weren't invited because it's just for coworkers. I nodded, smiled, said, have fun, like I always did. She kissed me on the cheek, light, distracted, like she was already gone. As soon as she pulled out of the driveway, I called my buddy Nate. He's one of those friends who never asks too many questions. A guy who's helped me build a fence, bury a dog, and drink away a few tough nights. You still got that old Canon camera? I asked. He paused. Yeah. Why? I told him I needed a favor. No judgment. Just a ride. I followed her again. This time, I stayed a little farther back. She wasn't heading to any restaurant. She drove straight across town, past the mall, past the office parks, and into a quiet part of the city with budget motels and neon signs that flickered like broken promises. Same place as before. Ramada Inn. She parked. He was already there, standing near the door like some teenage Romeo with a keycard. They didn't even bother pretending this time. He kissed her as soon as she stepped out. Long familiar. His hands on her waist like he owned her. I didn't take a picture. I took 10. They walked inside, and I stayed in the car. Not crying. Not yelling. Just sinking. Like someone cut the engine inside me and I was drifting out to sea. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe half an hour. Maybe more. Eventually, I drove home. Kids were still out with my sister. Rachel had planned the whole night to be just us, she said. At least she had the decency to get rid of them first. I poured a drink, sat at the kitchen table, and just stared at nothing. You know what's strange? I wasn't even mad. Not yet. It was more like grief. Like mourning a person who was still alive, the version of her I used to know. The version that laughed at my bad jokes and got misty-eyed watching our daughter's school plays. That version was gone. Around 11:30, she came home. Her hair a little messier than it had been. Lipstick faded. smelling like wine and someone else's cologne. She walked in like nothing happened, smiled, said, "Long night." They wouldn't let me leave, and kissed me again, this time on the lips. I felt sick, but I kissed her back. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. Or weakness. The next morning, she made pancakes. Wore my old hoodie, the one with the faded logo and torn sleeve. She poured me coffee like it was any other day, like she hadn't just burned our marriage to the ground 12 hours earlier. And I played along, because I wasn't ready yet. I needed to be sure. Needed more than just a kiss in a parking lot and a hotel room key. I needed the truth from her lips. So I made a plan. It was a Saturday morning. Kids were at my mom's for the weekend. Rachel said she needed to clear her head, which apparently involved a lot of yoga pants and iced coffee runs. I told her I had yard work to do, which wasn't a lie. But what I really needed was to check her laptop. It was risky. Stupid, maybe. But I was done guessing. I waited until she was out, then opened the screen. It was password protected, of course. But Rachel used the same passcode for everything, her childhood dog's name and her birth year. Maxine 1983. It worked. The screen lit up, and I felt like a burglar in my own home. The desktop was clean, too clean. Only a few folders, taxes, work documents, budget 2024. But I've worked in IT before. Long time ago, sure, but once you learn how people hide things, it sticks with you. I ran a quick search for recently opened files. Nothing out of the ordinary, until I saw a folder labeled Rentals, hidden inside a long string of directories under her work files. Inside it, dozens of PDFs, short-term lease agreements, credit card payments, reservation confirmations, all for places she'd never told me about. Cabins, beach houses, motels, and not just in our town, in 3 different states. I clicked through one, a cozy Airbnb in Asheville, booked under a fake name, Laura M., but the credit card was hers. The description said, perfect for couples. Quiet, secluded, private hot tub. My stomach turned. This wasn't just a fling. It was a routine. But then I saw something else, a file labeled intakeform.pdf. It didn't make sense at first. I opened it, and everything changed. It was an intake form from a fertility clinic. Her name was on it. The date was recent, just 2 weeks ago. I read through it once, twice, 3 times. My brain refusing to process what I was seeing. She wasn't trying to have a baby with me. She was trying to have a baby with him. I slammed the laptop shut. Sat there with my hands in my hair, staring at the kitchen floor like it had answers I couldn't find in that damn folder. This wasn't just cheating. This was something else. Something deeper. Colder. She wasn't just stepping out of the marriage for fun. She was building a whole other life. And I wasn't in it. The rest of that day passed in a blur. I don't remember much. Just the sound of the wind outside and the click of the fridge door every time I got another beer. By the time Rachel came home, the laptop was right where I'd found it. I said nothing. She didn't notice. Sunday morning, I called my friend Jeff. He's a lawyer. Not the loud, TV commercial kind, the quiet kind who listens more than he talks. I'm not ready to file yet, I told him. But I need to know what I'm up against. He said he'd help. No pressure. Just a conversation. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Because here's the twist, the one that still messes with my head. That intake form? It listed the name of the other applicant. It wasn't him. It wasn't the guy from the motel. The one she'd been meeting for months. It was someone else. Someone I knew. A name I hadn't heard in years. And suddenly, the cheating, the lies, they weren't the worst part anymore. The worst part was that she'd kept this buried deeper than anything else. I sat on that name for 3 days. 3 full days of pretending everything was fine while my insides twisted like someone wrung me out and hung me up to dry. The name on the intake form, the one Rachel had listed as the biological father, wasn't the motel guy. Wasn't some coworker. Wasn't a stranger. It was Luke Callahan. My best friend. Or, I guess I should say, used to be. Luke and I had known each other since high school. Played baseball together. He was the best man at my wedding. Gave a speech about loyalty, brotherhood, standing by each other no matter what. Apparently, that vow had an expiration date. Rachel always got along with him. Too well, in hindsight. They joked around like siblings. I chalked it up to their similar sense of humor, dark, sarcastic, just this side of inappropriate. But there were little things, you know? Times I'd walk into the room, and they'd stop talking. Nights Rachel would go for a drive, after a long day, and come back smiling, not the tired kind of smile, but the kind you wear after something secret and sweet. I told myself it was nothing. You don't want to believe your wife and your best friend would do something like that. You don't want to believe you were the only one who didn't see it. But here it was, in black and white, Luke Callahan, listed on a fertility form as the chosen donor, the one she wanted to have a child with. No mention of me. Nothing. Just Rachel's name and his. Like I'd already been erased. I thought about confronting Luke first. Thought about driving over to his place, banging on the door, demanding answers. But I didn't want answers from him. I wanted the truth from her. So I waited. That night, after the kids were asleep, I asked Rachel to sit down. No anger in my voice. Just calm. Measured. Tell me about Luke, I said. She blinked. What? Tell me about you and Luke. She froze for half a second. That was all I needed. Is this about the ski trip? She asked. The ski trip was 2 years ago. She'd gone with coworkers. Said it was a retreat. I hadn't thought twice about it at the time. Start wherever you want, I said. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Looked down. Then she said the worst possible thing she could have said. I didn't think you'd ever find out. It wasn't a denial. It wasn't even a defense. It was a confession. They've been seeing each other on and off for nearly 3 years, she said. It started with late-night conversations, just talking when things between us felt flat. Luke understood her in ways I couldn't anymore. They never planned anything, she said. They just fell into it. Funny how people always fall into betrayal like it's an accident. Like tripping over a curb. I asked her about the form. The fertility clinic. She didn't try to lie. Said it was her idea. That she and Luke had talked about having a baby together. Not to raise as a couple, no. Nothing that complicated. She just wanted one last piece of something real, as she put it. One last piece of him. And me. I asked, where did I fit in? She looked me in the eye, and I swear to God, I've never seen someone look so empty and so sure at the same time. You were always stable. Safe. Luke was something else. Something I never got to finish. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about love. Not really. It was about regret. About her chasing something she thought she missed out on. About rewriting the past in a way that made her feel young again. Alive. Desired. And I was just collateral damage. She didn't cry. Didn't beg. Didn't even look sorry. She just said, I didn't think you'd understand. She was right. I didn't. Because I never saw it coming. Because I never thought the person sleeping next to me for over a decade would turn into someone I didn't recognize. And because the man I once called brother helped her do it. I stood up. Quietly. Walked upstairs. Locked the door behind me. She didn't follow. Didn't knock. Didn't say a word. The next morning, she made eggs like nothing happened. You ever hear the phrase, don't get mad, get everything? Yeah. That became my motto. I wasn't looking to burn Rachel's life to the ground just to watch the fire. But I was going to make sure she understood one thing, crystal clear. You don't walk away from a good man after gutting him, and keep the house keys. She thought this was going to be clean. Cordial. A we've grown apart kind of divorce. She had no idea I'd been preparing a chessboard while she was busy playing checkers in hotel rooms. Step 1. Shut off the money. I opened a separate account, rerouted my paychecks, canceled the credit cards she had access to, and pulled every dime from our savings. It wasn't hiding, it was protecting. Jeff, my lawyer, made sure it was done by the book. Rachel woke up one morning, tried to buy a pair of $300 boots online, and her card declined. That's when the text came. Why is my card not working? I didn't answer. I sent her a copy of the temporary court order. She'd get her fair share later. After the dust settled. If there was anything left. She showed up at my place 2 hours later, wearing sunglasses like she was shielding herself from her own guilt. You can't just cut me off, she snapped. Actually, I said, calm as ever, I can. This isn't fair, she said, arms crossed. No, Rachel. What you did, that wasn't fair. She started crying. Not the kind of tears that come from heartbreak. The kind that show up when the power's slipping from your fingers. Step 2, the house. Legally, it was mine. She never bothered getting her name on the deed. Said she trusted me. Big mistake. I filed the paperwork to sell it. Fast and quiet. My real estate buddy found a cash buyer who didn't blink at the asking price. Rachel tried to stall it. Said she needed more time to sort her living arrangements. I gave her 2 options. Take a generous buyout and walk away. Fight me in court and lose even more. She chose option 3, denial. Filed a motion with her lawyer to block the sale. Claimed she deserved the house for emotional continuity for the kids. Jeff was ready for that. Pulled up emails she'd sent me over the past year. Ones where she admitted she was unhappy, distant, wanted freedom. Some of them even mentioned Luke by name. I don't think she realized she'd been building my case the whole time. Step 3. Reputation. Rachel loved her image. Soccer mom, board member at the school PTA, the put-together wife with perfect teeth and Instagram-ready birthday cakes. I didn't go public. I didn't post anything. But I did share a few key pieces of information, discreetly, selectively, with the right people. Her boss, her church friends, a couple PTA moms who thrived on drama like bees on spilled soda. I never said she cheated. I just let them ask questions. By the end of the month, she had stepped down from the PTA, taken a leave of absence from work, and stopped posting altogether. The mask was slipping, and it wasn't pretty. Step 4. The kids. This was the part one didn't want to weaponize. But Rachel made that choice for me. She told our daughter that Daddy was being cruel, that I was punishing her for wanting something more. I sat both kids down and told them the truth. Not the ugly version. Not the details. Just enough. Your mom and I had some promises. She broke them. And when someone breaks promises that deeply, you have to make hard decisions. That's what I'm doing. They didn't cry. Our son nodded. Our daughter said she kind of already knew. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. Rachel tried to fight for full custody, said I was manipulating them. Jeff pulled out photos of her motel visits, travel receipts, fertility clinic forms. The judge read through them quietly and said, without looking up, "Ma'am, it appears you've already chosen to live separately. The paperwork just hasn't caught up yet." Boom. Shared custody. My terms. She stormed out of the courthouse like it was a personal betrayal. She forgot. Betrayal started with her. By the time the divorce was finalized, Rachel had lost the house, half her savings, most of her social circle, and the narrative she thought she could control. And me? I was still standing. You ever hear someone say karma always comes around? I used to think that was just something people told themselves to feel better when they were down bad. But then, one random Monday afternoon, karma showed up, in the form of a phone call from Jeff. "You sitting down?" he asked. "Not yet," I said. "Should I be? Rachel just cost herself a small fortune, and you're about to come out way ahead." Now, backtrack a few years. When Rachel got hired at her current company, a big regional insurance firm, she made me look over the contract. Said it was too boring to read through on her own. I remember flipping through it and noticing a small clause in the employee agreement. Any conduct, personal or professional, that results in reputational damage to the company, including public scandal, is grounds for termination and disqualification from all performance-based bonuses. Didn't think much of it at the time, until Jeff reminded me about it. See, once Rachel's little side story with Luke leaked, and trust me, it leaked, her employer got nervous. There were clients asking questions. 2 of her coworkers filed complaints about uncomfortable gossip affecting the workplace. By the time her HR department called her in for a formal review, the damage was done. She was placed on unpaid leave. Then came the real kicker. Her stock bonus, the one she had bragged about for 2 years, got revoked. That bonus, $186,000. Gone. And here's where it gets wild. Because during our divorce settlement, she had refused to split that bonus. Said it was hers since she'd earned it. Fine, I said. Jeff wrote it up. She waived her right to any share of my investments in exchange for full control of that bonus. Now, the bonus was wiped out. But my accounts? Still healthy. Untouched. Mine. And that waiver? Legally airtight. We didn't owe her a dime. Rachel tried to contest it. Said the bonus was expected and that I was manipulating the system. The judge, after reading through the details, leaned forward and said, plain and simple, "This is not manipulation. This is consequence." She stormed out of the courtroom again. And I sat there calm, quiet, almost smiling as the ink dried on a decision that finally felt like justice. But that wasn't the end of it. A week later, Jeff got another call, this time from Claire, Luke's ex. She wanted to talk. We met at a diner just outside town. Neutral ground. She brought a thick folder and a notepad. She looked tired, like someone who'd aged 5 years and 5 months. "I don't want revenge," she said, stirring her coffee. "I want closure." I nodded. I got that. But what she handed me, that wasn't closure. That was leverage. See, Luke wasn't just having an affair. He was writing off his getaways with Rachel as business travel. Hotel stays, meals, flights, all charged to the company card. And Claire? She had proof. Emails, statements, receipts. I passed the info along to a journalist I knew, local guy, ran a respectable column on corporate waste and fraud. I didn't even have to spin it. The facts spoke for themselves. 2 weeks later, Luke was fired from his job. Company cited ethical breaches and misappropriation of funds. I didn't gloat, didn't post a word, but I did buy myself something nice that weekend, a solid new truck, paid in full, clean title, no baggage. It was late, past 10. I had just finished helping Melissa clean up after dinner, homemade meatloaf, mashed potatoes, the kind of meal that wraps around your bones on a cold night. I met her at the hardware store of all places. I was trying to pick the right shade of stain for a coffee table I'd been building, one of those divorced guy rediscovering woodwork cliches. She was standing next to me in the aisle, holding a gallon of satin finish like it was a crystal ball. We started talking about brushstrokes. Ended up talking for an hour, and eventually, we found ourselves living together, sharing quiet mornings, late-night takeout, and a kind of peace I didn't think I'd ever feel again. The kids were at their mom's, and Melissa had gone upstairs to grade papers. She teaches 9th grade English. Somehow, she still finds joy in teenagers who confuse Shakespeare with Marvel movies. I had just settled onto the couch when I heard a knock at the door. Soft, hesitant, not the kind of knock you expect at night. When I opened it, Rachel was standing there. Hair damp, shoulders hunched under an oversized jacket I didn't recognize. No makeup. Eyes swollen like she'd been crying for hours. Behind her, nothing. No car. No bags. No plan. Just her. "Can I come in?" she asked. I didn't move. I didn't speak. She looked down at her shoes, then back up, her voice cracking. I didn't know where else to go. Turns out her sister had kicked her out, said she needed to stop living like a victim. Rachel had nowhere to stay. No job. Her car was gone, repossessed. She'd been bouncing between friends and hotels, but the last card had finally declined. Now she was here, on my porch. After everything. "I made a mistake," she said, tears starting. "I was selfish. I was stupid. I thought Luke cared about me, but he's gone. He ghosted me the second his wife took the kids. I ruined everything. I lost everything." I stood there in the doorway, letting her words hang in the cold night air. She reached out, fingertips barely brushing the edge of the frame. "Please, just let me in. Just for tonight. I'll sleep on the couch. I'll leave in the morning." Behind me, I heard Melissa's footsteps on the stairs. Rachel froze. Melissa didn't say anything. Just looked at me calm, steady. No jealousy. No drama. Just a quiet question in her eyes. "Are you okay?" I nodded. Then I turned back to Rachel. "I'm sorry," I said, softly. "But this isn't your home anymore." Her face crumpled. "You'd leave me out here? In the cold?" I exhaled. Not out of anger, out of sadness. "You left me a long time ago, Rachel. Tonight's just the paperwork catching up." She tried again. "But we were a family." "No," I said, calm as ever. "We were a contract you broke. A story you rewrote without me." The tears came hard now. But I didn't move. Melissa stepped beside me. Not possessively, just there. Solid. Rachel's eyes flicked to her. Then back to me. And that's when it hit her. She wasn't just alone. She'd been replaced. Not with someone younger. Not prettier. Not richer. But with someone better. Someone kind. Someone who saw me. "I have nowhere to go," Rachel whispered. "I hope you find somewhere," I replied. And gently, without slamming, without anger, I closed the door. I stood there for a moment, just breathing. Melissa rested her hand on my back. I turned, looked her in the eye, and smiled. "I'm good," I said. "Really, truly good."